If there's like, say, a sketch about hair products, right? Which there is, I think that I might have more perspective on that than like a white male counterpart who has not used black hair products.
What are you saying about my hair? Are you disparaging my hair, which is so flowing and thick and, just amazing? One of the things that I want to go a little bit deeper on is just the clarification that obviously you've never been in a situation where you're dealing with deportations, but there's still, I would assume, a deeper level of empathy for what these people are going through because you can understand what that would feel like because you're one step away from that could literally be your reality, yes?
Definitely, yeah.
So here's the reason I think that's important. This is not something I was even planning on getting to for like an hour, but let's just do it now. You were in a piece, like a behind-the-scenes piece with the showrunner, creator of Black Lady Sketch Show, which I never said we wouldn't talk about it, just not the creative side of the show itself. But it was your showrunner and the 3 editors, all of whom are black and female, and talked about the idea that we just don't think that white males would be able to cut the show the same way. And I want to go deeper into this idea because I think that what I've seen a lot recently in our culture, in a lot of it's behind the scenes, is backlash from white males saying, I can't get any jobs anymore because of this stupid diversity stuff. I've got all this experience. I'm so good at what I do. And most importantly, I'm an editor and a storyteller. It shouldn't matter. So having said all of that, I want to go back to this documentary piece about these ICE deportations called Separated. Why is it that you, and I'm not challenging you, I want to really dig into this deeper. Why is it that you can do a better job cutting it than I can when I know the same tools, the same storytelling techniques, I'm very good with music and transitions and everything else. Why does that make you better at that than me?
I think there's like a level of nuance that people don't always think about when they think about cutting stories together. So going back to being first gen, I think there's certain things that maybe it's a nuanced expression, but I'm like, oh, this means something very specific that maybe like a white male counterpart wouldn't pick up on, but it adds so much to the story because you know that this means this thing. I think there's just value in having that sort of nuanced perspective and just being able to like maybe see the story from a different lens. Because there's a very specific lens that I think we've all seen that type of a story presented with. So it's an opportunity to kind of like look at it from maybe a different lens and be able to show people the world from that lens. It's just about authenticity and, just trying to make sure that the stories we're telling aren't being more harmful than helpful.
Yeah, to me, it goes to the heart of the things you're talking about, which is a level of authenticity and nuance. Because when you get to a certain level in any industry, and talking about our industry, you get to a certain point working on HBO shows, for example, there's a whole handful of people, all of whom are more than capable and have all the skills and all the experience to do a great job on that show. Great job. But as we know, what we do for a living is we make choices. Thousands and thousands of little tiny frame-by-frame choices. And your diverse background and your ability to relate and empathize with these characters, I believe, allows you to make better and more specific and more nuanced choices than I could, even though I consider myself very good at what I do. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because it's not saying that people are not good storytellers. I think that all of us, anyone who's cutting like an HBO show or any, TV show is at a certain experience level. But it is just a matter of like being able to make those choices, but make them in a way that feels authentic to what you're trying to say. If there's like, say, a sketch about hair products, right? Which there is, I think that I might have more perspective on that than like a white male counterpart who has not used black hair products.
What are you saying about my hair? Are you disparaging my hair, which is so flowing and thick and, just amazing?
No, I'm just saying, like,
I really hope people are watching the video version because the audio version won't do that joke justice.
No, I think that you probably haven't used like Carol's daughter, for example.
I have not.
So, but there's a very specific joke about that. So it's like, I think there's more nuance maybe in telling specific stories where it becomes helpful to have.
Right. And what's interesting from my perspective, and I'm going to do my best to not get too deep into storytelling because we're here to hear your story. But I think that in me sharing both of these briefly, I think these are things you can possibly relate to and shed light on, just both for me personally, but for our audience as well, why this diversity conversation is so important. And it's not about we need the token diversity hire. There's actual tremendous, genuine value to making these decisions, even if somebody has less experience. That diverse perspective has a lot of value. I've been on 2 projects in my career that made absolutely no sense other than I was more than capable and I knew the right people at the right time. One of which is very high profile, is that I was on the first season of Empire. The other of which is my very first breakout feature film that was an indie film that was acquired by Fox Searchlight. It was called Fat Girls. It was a Monique film. And I spent over a year working on that film with a black female director, of which it was a very, very personal story. And Empire was like the longest year of my life. It was a great and interesting experience, but there a lot happened on that show, and it's very high profile, lots of politics, none of which I'm going to get into. None of that. I don't want it to be that kind of a show. The point being that rather than just kind of filtering my feelings about this conversation, I've been in the position of being the white male qualified editor that realizes I should not be the person that's telling this story. I'm great at what I do. I cut a really great scene and a good montage. And if you give me a sense of the story that you want to tell, I can deliver it. But when it came to the nuances, I really started to feel out of my element when certain conversations come up. There literally was a conversation about black female hair products when we were working on Fat Girls, and a whole litany of different things about slang terms and cultural things during the first season of Empire. And I realized, I don't think I'm the best fit to be doing this. I've got the talent to do it all. I think the shows that I worked on came out great. Very proud of that work. But I realized firsthand, and I felt that level of discomfort, that there's somebody that can do this better because I just don't have the life experience to make some of these choices and make better choices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I think the thing too is like what you were saying earlier, there's a bunch of like white male editors who maybe are annoyed that there aren't opportunities of jobs.
Annoyed is a way to put it very kindly. But go on.
Yes. Annoyed that they can't find work, or that there's less maybe jobs available to them. But I don't think that's a way to look at it. It's more a matter of like just diversifying the amount of people within the space. It's not taking a job away to give somebody else an opportunity. There's plenty of jobs to go around. And I think, having an editing team that's like a variety of people is valuable to everybody. You learn more being around people who are different, and yeah, it's an interesting like conversation, the way that it's kind of come up. Because if you recall, there was like that thread a few years ago that was like within a Facebook, I need an editor.
Oh yes, I have an entire podcast all about this thread, and I will make sure to link to it in the show notes. But just for those that may not remember, give us like the 1 minute pitch for that post and everything that transpired after it.
So basically, there was a post in this group on Facebook, I need an editor. And it was just it was like, are there any Black union editors in this group? That was just the question, right? It wasn't, I have to only hire a Black union editor, nothing. It was literally just like, do they exist? Right? It was a simple question because there just aren't enough of us. So all of the not all of them, but a lot of the white men in that group just sort of like, there's a ton of backlash, and they're like, this is not legal because it's, you're hiring only Black editors, blah, blah, blah. And that thread went viral on Twitter. And as a result, a bunch of different sort of lists of diverse candidates for jobs started circulating and like being created, and just this bigger conversation happened surrounding it.
That's a very kind way of putting it. I like how you're taking all of these things and telling them in a very kind way, because it can get a lot uglier than that. And when I talked about it shortly after it came out, I was definitely more bold about just my distaste and frank outright hatred for a lot of the things that were said. But yeah, the immediate gut reaction was assume the post had been written as follows. I am seeking an editor for this project. I will only consider Black union editors. I will not consider anybody else outside that race. If you are white and male, you are not qualified to apply for this project. Click here to apply. That was how they were writing comments, because that would have been out of line, right? Mm-hmm. I wouldn't agree with a post like that. That was how they responded, as opposed to what was actually there, which is, Raise your hand if you're a Black union editor. Like, I can imagine being in front of a group of 200 or 300 people and saying, how many of you in here are Black union editors? Would I get a ton of backlash for that? No, it's a poll question. Right. It's not the way that it was taken, which if we were going to give it a little bit more context, I don't remember exactly, but wasn't it roughly right after the whole Black Lives Matter movement started to explode, if I remember correctly? Mm-hmm. It's like right around that time?
It was like around the George Floyd protests. So like mid 2020 or something.
So, needless to say, things were very volatile. Not that I wish I could say things have really settled down in the last couple of years, haven't they? And they certainly haven't, but it was certainly very, very volatile then.